Hello, my dear students. Myself, Rita Rani, and this is the second and the last part of chapter 5 Working of Institutions. But before starting the explanation, I would like to request you all again. Please subscribe our channel if you have not subscribed till now. Press the bell icon for further notifications. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends also. Now let's move to the explanation part. In the first part, my dear students, I have already explained office memorandum, major policy decision, need for political institutions, and there are three important political institutions. One, Parliament. The first one is Parliament, along with its two houses. I have already explained. It is called legislature also. So Parliament I have already explained in part 1. Now in the part 2, I will explain other two political institutions. The second one is political executive. What is executive? Executive means those who execute, those who implement the formulated plans or taken decisions. There are two types of executives: political executive and permanent executive. Political executives are our political leaders whom we give our vote for a specific period of time, because uh, every after every 5 years elections are held. We give our vote and we elect our representatives, and those representatives become political executives. Permanent executives are our civil servants. Why they are called permanent? Because every after 5 years they are not changed. They remain in the office, they remain in their job till their retirement. Ruling parties are changed, but these permanent executives are not changed every after 5 years. After every 5 years. But these permanent executives work under political executives. So we can say that political executives are more powerful than permanent executives. Though these permanent executives, our civil servants, are more educated, have more expert knowledge on the subject, yet our political executives, our ministers, have the right to say yes or no on the subject. So simple, what is the reason why our permanent executives, those who are very much knowledgeable, very much educated, even though they do not have the power to say yes or no? The reason is our democracy. In democracy, will of the public, will of the people is supreme. Our political leaders are the representatives of people. People have given their vote to them, they have made them representative. They are empowered to express their will on behalf of the public. And that is the reason they are answerable to the people. They are responsible for each and everything. People give them their vote, people make them their representative, and that is why people have the right to ask questions, and they have to answer their questions. They are responsible for all the consequences of the decisions taken by them. Now, among these political executives, who is most powerful? Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Prime Minister is most important political executive. In our country, there is no direct election for the post of Prime Minister. Whichever party or the coalition of the parties get majority in Lok Sabha election, leader of that party is appointed as Prime Minister by the President. Prime Minister does not have a fixed tenure. He continues in power so long as he remains the leader of the majority party or the coalition. Coalition parties, it means when a single party does not get majority, then 2-3 parties, more than one party. they come together to get the majority to form the government. So in that situation also Prime Minister is very powerful. Now Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers is the official name for the body that includes all the ministers. It usually has 60 to 80 ministers of different ranks. And there are three ranks of the ministers. And the first rank is cabinet ministers. They are the top level leaders. They are the in charges of the major ministries. Major ministries like foreign ministry, defense ministry, home ministry. These are the foreign ministries. Finance ministry, and the in charges of these ministries are cabinet ministers, or we can say they are the major ministers of the government. It is the inner ring of the Council of Ministers. It comprises about 20 ministers. Now the second rank, that is ministers of state with independent charge. They usually take care of small ministries. They are also ministers, but they are the ministers of small ministries. They participate in cabinet meetings only when they are specially invited. Next, the third category is deputy minister. They are also called the ministers of state. They do not take care of any independent ministry. They assist cabinet ministers actually. And above all these ministers, Prime Minister's position is supreme. He chooses his cabinet and his decision is taken as final. But in coalition government, here and there he make little bit compromises because one party's majority is not there. So to run his government, to maintain the majority, he has to satisfy all the party leaders. All the parties should be satisfied with him. That is why he has to make compromises here and there. Even though in that situation also he is in supreme position, and when Prime Minister leaves, the entire ministry leaves. He is considered the representative of all the ministers. So we can say that Prime Minister enjoys lots of powers. So now I will tell you the powers of Prime Minister. He leads all the cabinet meetings. He is the head of the government. He plays the role of a coordinator among different departments. Actually, you can say that he is just like the captain of the ship. If any disagreement is there, if any conflicts is there, then PM's decision is taken, final decision, and it is the duty, it is the responsibility of the Prime Minister how he tackles such situations, how he manage all the conflicts or disagreements, how he deal the situation. He supervises all the ministries, and these ministers work under his leadership. Prime Minister distributes work among different ministers, and he has the power to dismiss any minister also. So in this way we can say that Prime Minister enjoys lots of power. He is really very much important political executive. Another important political executive is President of India. As Prime Minister is the head of government, President is the head of the state. But in India, this head of the state has nominal power, just like the Queen of Britain, whose functions are to a large extent ceremonial. Our president is not elected directly by the people. President is elected by our representatives, member of parliament, member of legislative assembly. our president, in a way we can say that representative represents the whole nation, entire nation. On the other hand, president can never claim on direct popular mandate that the PM can, because prime minister is elected by the people directly. President is not elected by the people directly. Simply we can say president remains only a nominal executive. But it does not mean that president does not have powers. In spite of all these things, president has lots of powers. President is the head of the state. His powers are nominal. President powers are nominal, even though president supervises all the functioning of all the political institutions. There is nothing that president cannot do. All the government activities take place, all the major policies are taken in her name only. Even all the major appointments like Chief Justice, judges of Supreme Court and High Court, governors of the state, and Commissioner of Election Commission, ambassador to other countries. All these major appointments are made in the name of President. Not only this, all the international treaties and agreements are made in the name of President only. And other than this, President is the supreme commander of our defense forces. So, our President is also enjoying lots of powers. Now, the third political institution, that is judiciary. All the courts of different labels all together are called judiciary. Judiciary consists of Supreme Court for the entire nation, High Courts at a state level, District Court means all the courts at the local level. So all together all these courts are called judiciary. Supreme Court controls the judicial administration in the country. It is above all the courts. It can take up any dispute between a citizen and another citizen, means between two citizens, between two state governments, between state government and central government, between a citizen and the government, means any type of dispute can be taken up by Supreme Court. Now, independence of judiciary. Judiciary is completely independent in our country. It is not under the control of legislature or executive. It is completely independent to take its decision. There can be no interference, no influence of any other institution. Decisions are not taken under any influence. They are taken on the basis of proofs, evidences, logics, explanations through a pure legal procedure. No interference of any political party, by any government, by any influential, powerful, rich person. No, nothing works in judiciary. Judges of Supreme Court and High Court are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister along with the consultation of Chief Justice of Supreme Court. So we can say that their appointments are done through a very transparent process. Once a person is appointed as judge of Supreme Court or High Court, He or she cannot be removed from his or her position. Only if two-third members of each house means two-third members of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, if they levy any charge, if they impose any charge against the judge, then only a judge of Supreme Court or High Court can be removed. So in this way we can say that our judiciary is not only independent, it is very much powerful also. So here I am telling you about the powers of judiciary. In our country, judiciary is very much powerful, or I can say it is the most powerful institution. It has the power to interpret our constitution. Whenever any dispute is there over any law, any right, any clauses, or the decisions given by other courts, then Supreme Court's interpretation or the verdict is taken as final. It can ask question from the parliament also and ask the government to review its decision also, means it is more powerful than the government. It is taken as the guardian of constitution, and basic principles of the constitution cannot be changed by the parliament. It is the guardian of fundamental rights also. If public interest is hurt by government's action, means if government takes any decision and that because of that decision public interest is hurt or violated, then anyone can approach Supreme Court, and it is called public interest litigation. And Supreme Court has the power to ask the question from the government. So on the whole, we can say if the question is about fundamental rights, if the question is about public interest, judiciary is more powerful than our government also. So that's all for the explanation part of this chapter 5. Now here I'm giving you some questions I have mentioned here. You all can note down these questions. Easily you will get the answers of these questions from both the videos, part 1 and part 2. First question is, how major decisions regarding law and policies are taken in the country? Which house of parliament is more powerful? Give 3 points in support of your answer. These two questions answers you can get from the part 1 video. Differentiate between political executive and permanent executive. This third question answer from this part video, part 2, you can get the answer. How the independence of judiciary has been ensured in India. Describe the powers and functions of President and Prime Minister. So first two questions answers you can get from part 1 video. Other 3, 4, 5, these 3 questions answers you will get from this video only. All the questions answers I have already explained. So watch it carefully, listen it carefully, and get the answers of your question. That's all. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself. Take care of your study also. We will meet in the next video with a new chapter. Till then, bye-bye. Take care.